The impact of the growth mindset on art classrooms. Ed 599, Culminating Master's Project, Fall 2021. Ahmed Surur, Master of Art Education, Arcadia University. My name is Ahmed Surur. My background is a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Tyler School of Art, Temple University. Ever since my graduation from Temple University and going through many endeavors in life, and I wanted to teach art and its concepts for many years before and even after I graduated from Temple University. I'm currently attending the graduate program at Arcadia University, where I will be able to earn my Master of Art Education along with the teaching certification, which will certify me to work as an art teacher K to 12. Currently, I'm working as a full-time art teacher with the Philadelphia School District using an emergency certification only until I earn my full teaching certification and my Master in Art Education. Right now, I am on my final stages of the student teacher requirements, which I'm currently being able to fulfill its responsibilities between my current school, which is Richmond Elementary School, and another middle school, which is Henry A. Brown School. My corporate teacher is the art teacher of Brown School, who had helped me in many ways throughout my students' teaching experience, and I was able to fulfill my observations needs as well. Before I joined the graduate program at Arcadia University, I was part of the tour guiding force at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where I gained such great knowledge and experience that I intrigued an old dream to teach art and connect with students on such a teaching level. The love of art and my willingness to be part of its academia were the most driving forces that made me wanted to take the idea to be an art teacher to the next level. The higher level here is joining the most prominent education school of Arcadia University, where I will be able to earn my Master of Art Education along with my K 12 art teaching certification. Research project question and context for the question. My research project question is: what role does growth and fixed mindset have in my classroom in fourth and fifth graders? In fourth and fifth grades, I choose this question for many reasons that stood as challenges in front of me as an art teacher. First, throughout my experience in art classroom where I would encounter students whose may approach any art assignment with a specific mindset that leans toward certain negative perception about art. For example, I may encounter some students with the feelings of being unsuccessful in creating an art assignment by saying I'm not good at art, or maybe they may say I'm not an artist because I don't have enough talent to be able to draw, or they may say only smart people know how to draw and express themselves. I encountered most of these responses from students during the active art classroom lessons, which made just to wonder of how I can, as an art teacher, change students with these negative responses to or fixed mindsets to adapt new ways of thinking. My goals are to improve students' perceptions, especially when it comes to art making process. Also to improve the level of consciousness and awareness through art classrooms because it will be beneficial to students to learn to learn in an environment that values the idea of growth mindset not only in art but throughout their other academics as well too. The concept of the mindset was on my radar for many years, and what brought this concept is the reading resources of Carol Dweck, The Mindset. I can really say that this book placed the spotlight into an area where I never thought that I can enter it due to the lack of resources and clarity of the subject matter. All these evidences intrigued me to try to uncover the main reasons behind students' responses and reactions toward certain artistic tasks, such as drawing certain objects or even learning new artistic skills. I think the significance of my research project's question will help me as an art teacher to understand more about my students' ways of thinking and how they are willing to perceive themselves inside of the art classroom in such a positive or a negative way. Also, understanding my students' ways of thinking will provide me with the necessary tools to better develop more improvement to my lesson plans through implementing more elements that may help all students to increase their growth mindset foundation. In addition, the significance of my question will increase the capacity of my knowledge in the world of psychology, which will give the power to design more inclusive curriculums that fulfill the needs of all students on all artistic level. Number three, this is a brief review of the literatures. Once I developed my research project's question, my next step was to dive deeper into the sources that may help me paving the way to form more coherent understanding of the roles that growth and fixed mindset can play in classrooms, especially in my art classroom. The most important part is to understand what is mindset, then collecting evidences of its impact on any individual's success or failure. The first literature was about the definition of the mindset from the Saudi school principal who came to the United States to conduct an action research paper. The environment of this literature was different because it reflected a point of view of another culture and country where they perceive the idea of the mindset as something that isn't important, and no matter how much you may want to change it, it will stay the same. So the dominant idea is the aspects of the fixed mindset, which gave no room for the growth mindset principles to flourish at all, where the old paradigm is the most dominant force over the country. Also, the literature illustrates the important part of adopting the growth mindset in shaping the face of any nation, as the researcher stated such an important question such as why most students in American schools enjoy attending schools question mark. I think that this resources represented such an important challenges that may prevent growth mindset from being an effective force in the classroom. One of these challenges, to my surprise, is the classroom's teacher with an adapted fixed mindset. Another benefit that I gained after my analyzation of this article is about the benefits behind implementing the growth mindset in the classroom, which is how much students will be able to increase their abilities to solve difficult problems and gain the freedom to think differently. The second literature that helped me to shape a salient idea to shape my study is disentangling the creative mindsets from the creative self efficacy and creative identity. This resource presented clearly different sides of the growth and fixed mindsets perspectives, which based on the idea of whether building and forming strong connections between them and the creativity's concept would be helpful to understand an individual's mindset in classroom or not. I think this literature eliminated a strong spotlight on other types of creativity's mindset, such as creative self efficacy and creative identity. Also, I think that the question, which is what type of relationships between mindsets, theories, and the creativity ones, I think asking these types of inquiry had opened the gate ahead to explore other creative concepts such as creative self efficacy and creative identity. An individual with a growth mindset tends to hold a mastery goal orientation, which leads to the adaptation of creative self-efficacy. Also, I think that this resource forms strong correlation between growth mindset and the idea of the individual being creative and their abilities to think more in direction of being creative, especially when it comes to growth mindset goals. Another literature that represented an idea of what can be learned from growth mindset controversies, which represents four important questions such as do mindsets create students outcomes, do students mindsets interventions work, are mindset interventions effect sizes too small or to be interesting, and finally, do teach mindset interventions work? The article illustrated in depth and in such details that how people's own explanations for success or failure can shape their reactions to any event, such as in this case school's environment. Also, there are many methods, especially when it comes to the idea of measuring growth mindset, such as surveys to include such as questions that students can answer with agree or disagree, because mindsets are not all or nothing theory. The article also included many tests results from many countries around the world, such as Norway, India, and China. The results of this first controversy proved many circumstances that mindsets can be measured, and the students with high scores in mindset surveys proved the correlation between growth mindset students adaptations and their English language arts scores. This literature presented such an incredible amount of information and data results. The controversies included different views and results of the mindsets in general, and the growth mindset in specific. The first result of this resource controversy concluded that growth mindset could and would predict students' academic outcome and introduce invaluable points that people's explanation for a success or failure can shape their reaction to any event, such as in school's environment. The second outcome that introduced invaluable perspective, which the second controversy proved was the growth mindset interventions. In this controversy, the idea was to implant the growth mindset throughout, creating certain programs which might help students with lower grades or faced with some setbacks and or failure to develop their academic abilities through implementing certain strategies that the interventions might offer. Also, I think that the benchmarks results introduced invaluable results that the growth mindset interventions outcomes illustrated how much students' grades improved on a larger scale throughout the country, which was impressive despite the small effects such as 0.15 or even 0.10 SD. There was another literature that helped to define my vision of the growth mindset even more that was the flow, which is the flow concept. The literature explores how the concept of flow theories motivation connects to the arts in an urban public school. The main idea of this journal article is to explore the concept of flow and how it's critically important to enhance students' performance in art, which leads to performance improvement in other academics too. I think this resource presented another component to the positive effect of the growth mindset, that was the flow concept. The final result of this study presented clearly how much art education is to students, especially when it comes to developing the flow, which is the main development component of positivity, motivation, time assertion, and managing the balance between challenge and skill. Also, this resource introduced the importance of intrinsic motivation, especially when it comes to developing the growth mindset. This resources also illustrated the valuable relationship between art curriculums and students' acceleration on other academic subjects, such as result of the positive side effects of the flow concept. This literature connects to my study of for many reasons. First, flow involves performance goals where participants connect with their level of performance, which is the main component of the growth mindset concept. Also, participants were aware of their learning goals before they start their artistic activity, which leads to the development of their awareness and how much important to work on their assignment slash project in order to reach out to their goals. Second, the resource presented the importance of intrinsic motivation, especially within art school classrooms, and how much important for the art teacher to illustrate the assignment's learning goals and how what type and also what type of skills students would be able to gain. This step would help students to build strong motivation and desire to create goals and complete the artistic task on hand. There was another literature that connected on a more deeper level with my research study. This article is about encouraging growth mindset through art. I think this article had presented invaluable information about flourishing the growth mindset in classrooms through art assignments practicing. The literature demonstrated the importance of making students an important component, especially when it comes to creating process focused projects, which help students to be more engaged, more in creating the project themselves, such as in the example which was shared in this resource. Instead of the traditional follow the leader prompts or the step by step art making style, I think the strategic guide which was presented in this article could work as a useful and invaluable source of guiding art teachers in creating a more engaging art classroom environment that may foster the idea of the growth mindset. I think this article connects with my project for multiple reasons. First, by giving a defined and strategic guide to follow in order to foster a growth mindset in art room. Second, by giving a great explanation about the importance of designing an art lesson plans that are based on the process focused projects rather than implementing the old methodology follow the leader prompts. The resource also connects to my inquiry project by giving an explanation of how important to use the process focused style to gain more knowledge and information about students' diverse backgrounds, idea beside their personalities as well too. The last lecture, which I think had given me more coherent and clear vision about the growth and fixed mindsets, which was about the growth versus fixed mindset and what does it mean for the art room. This article presented a coherent explanation about the growth and fixed mindset theme. It presented a challenge which every art teacher might face during the art classroom time, which is that some students may adopt the idea of how much they don't know how to draw or paint, and how much they truly believe that they weren't artists because they weren't born with enough artistic talent, similar to other excelled artistic students. The source presented in an easy and doable steps how to encourage students to adapt the growth mindsets, learning goals, which I think is a great way to shift the art classroom thinking into more dynamic and creative directions, such as creating challenging art assignments, embracing students' efforts, remind students that success takes work, embracing criticism, and finally embrace mistakes. I think this article connected well with my inquiry project because it provided provided a simple yet clear definition of growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Also, I think this source presented simple and easy to start steps of implementing a growth mindset inside of the art classroom, which may help me as an art teacher and a researcher to find a starting point where I can encourage students artistically to adopt the growth mindset learning goals. This article introduced such an important component that is the group critique step, which is which is the invaluable, which is the invaluable, which is the valuable step to all students to give and accept productive criticism. Methods and procedures used to study the action research question. In this section, I will provide a detailed overview of my specific project design process and procedures. I will start with the rationale behind my design, which is to answer my main research question. That is, what role does growth and fixed mindset have in my classroom in fourth and fifth grades? In order to find more answers to my question, I needed to include three elements to be the foundation of my design. First, my daily observation of my fourth and fifth grade students, which includes my close attention to their reactions, especially during an introduction of a new art assignments or other forms of artistic skills, and recording my reactions via voice recording and written side notes. Beside my in-class students' observation, I would deliberately collect the students' finished or unfinished art assignments, and I would start to write down notes regarding each student's progress during class based on my project's main question. Second, I designed multiple focus blocks throughout my day, including the weekends, to go over the reading resources that were connected to the mindset concept. And also, my focus during those time frames was to search for more articles and journals that might help me to cultivate more coherent understanding of the mindset concept. The third and last element of my design was a survey to collect enough data so I can create enough evidence to help me to judge whether growth mindset's active concept could affect students' perceptions and academic growth or not. Also, the survey helped me to build a coherent and strong connections between the used literatures in this research paper and the actual classroom reactions during class. There are many reasons behind my choice of these specific research design and approaches, including accessibility to some of the materials which used to cultivate an understanding of the mindset concept. The first reason was the need to build strong body of knowledge and to cultivate a clear growth mindset's understanding so I could grasp the essence of it and comprehend its foundations from many perspectives. Also, I wanted to build enough body of evidences that might help that might support the student surveys part of my research, which could grant me more control over whether growth or fixed mindset had a huge impact inside of the classroom environment or not. The second reason the second reason behind my choice of student surveys was to be able to generate enough body of data that might help me to judge accurately on whether the concept of growth mindsets was truly an effective element on students' perceptions or not. The survey played a huge role to create a body of evidence that supported my main researching's question part. Also, it helped me to form a firm connection between all types of materials that I searched for and the actual students' reactions toward the growth or fixed mindset concept inside of the classroom. The results were more than what I had envisioned before the start of my research project, specifically in this part of my design project. The third reason was students' works. In this part, I was able to examine each student's finished artwork closely and to build a conclusion about specific students' reactions while I was introducing a new art assignments or certain artistic skills and the results of their final assignments, whether it was completed or not. The following are some of the strengths and limitation of my design. These strengths and limitations includes the three main project's foundations, which are the resources or the knowledge's body of my project, the survey part, and finally the in-person observations. The strengths of my project knowledge's body are the varieties of resources that I was able to collect, while they represented many concepts that were connected directly to or indirectly to the concept of the mindset, including the flow concept and other controversies that were related to the core essence of the mindset concept. However, I found on my way to discover more about the mindset's concept that there were some limitations of getting enough resources that were related closely to the mindset's concept due to the novice nature of that field of study. Also, some of these resources were long and lengthy, which required more time to spend, and it wasn't such an accessible option due to the limitation of time on one hand, and the other project's designing elements on the other hand as well. The strengths of my student survey resided in its strong nature, which could help to identify the potential issues that as a teacher I might not be aware of it. And in this case, the fixed mindset issue. Another strength of the survey part was that it provided an accurate data to collect from students, which made the judgment part on the entire mindset concept inside of my classroom more accessible versus without conducting it. However, I found out that there were some limitations to conduct my students' mindset survey, which included the limited class time teaching that was only 45 minutes, which might affect students' answers to its questions. The other limitation included students' responses, which in this case, not to be able to understand certain questions, and the carelessness that some students might treat it and not to be able to answer its questions in such an appropriate way. My project designs last building element was my in-class observations. The strengths of this part were its ability to provide an accurate data to use later to build my conclusion. Also, this observation gave me the strength to be more focused and conscious about all my students and to be able to analyze them from a different perspective, which I never experienced before on that level. Another strength that I gained was the ability to develop a close observation ability of the students' artwork, which granted me the power to point out some of the weaknesses and strengths of their skills. Although there were some limitations that I experienced during my performance of these types of close observation, which included the shortage, of course, of the classroom time and not being able to fully commit myself to focus on doing observations while teaching. I found it really challenging to do both parts at the same time, that is, to teach and observe. Another limitation that some students might experience a challenging day during the certain observation, which might present it to me such an accurate data of that specific students versus observing them on another day when they would have a better outcome and producing an accurate data to be collected. Findings and analysis. Findings. A survey. This contains the data that I collected from my students' survey as part of my research paper. I conducted these surveys activities once as part of my fourth and fifth graders classroom activities at the beginning of each of these classes. This survey included 21 fourth graders students and 33 fifth graders students. The survey was adopted from the New York City Department of Education. The main focus of this survey is to test students' abilities toward the growth mindset concept, as well as giving the quantity of students with growth versus fixed mindsets in the fourth and fifth graders classroom. So I can confirm that what are the rules of the growth or fixed mindset in the fourth and fifth graders classroom. The students were given 10 minutes to answer the survey's questions at the beginning of the art class. Most of the students were familiar with this type of survey, which made my job easier, so I didn't need to explain more about them. The results of the survey. The survey included 55 students, 21 students from 4th grade, and 33 students from 5th grade. 4th grade results. One student scored between 8 to 16, which is you strongly believe that your intelligence is fixed, it doesn't change much. If you cannot perform perfectly, you would rather not do something. You think smart people don't have to work hard. Um, Two students scored between 17 and 24. You you lean toward thinking, which is you lean toward thinking that your intelligence doesn't change much. You prefer not to make mistakes if you can help it, and you also don't really like to put in a lot of work. You may think that learning should be easy. 14 students scored between 25 and 32. You are not sure whether you can change your intelligence. You care about your performance and you also want to learn, but you don't really want to have to work too hard for it. For students scored between 33 and 40, you believe that your intelligence is something that you can increase. You care about learning and you are willing to work hard. You want to do well, but you think it's more important to learn than to always perform well. Zero students scored between 41 and 48. You feel very sure that which is you feel very sure that you can increase your intelligence by learning, and you like a challenge. You believe that the best way to learn is to work hard, and you believe that making mistakes is an inevitable a part of the learning process. Fifth grade results. Two students scored between 8 and 16. You strongly believe that your intelligence is fixed. It doesn't change much. If you cannot perform perfectly, you would rather not do something. You think smart people don't have to work hard. Six students scored between 17 and 24. You lean toward thinking that your intelligence doesn't change much. You prefer not to make mistakes if you can help it, and you also don't really like to put in a lot of work. You may think that learning should be easy. 15 students scored between 25 and 32. You are not sure whether you can change your intelligence. You care about your performance and you also want to learn, but you don't really want to have to work too hard for it. Nine students scored between 33 and 40. You believe that your intelligence is something that you can increase. You care about learning and you are willing to work hard. You want to do well, but you think it's more important to learn than to always perform well. One student scored between 41 and 48. You feel very sure that you can increase your intelligence by learning and you like a challenge. You believe that the best way to learn is to work hard and you believe that making mistakes is an inevitable is part of learning process. Students' reactions and art assignments observations. I will start with the students' reactions, which I consider to be the most important element of this part because it illustrates how some students would perceive their mental abilities and the power of intelligence. Their reactions to new art assignments and or learning new artistic skills may lead them to be able to perform well in this specific art assignment, or they may reside into the deep fixed mindset and avoid the completion of it. Also, I can say that based on my observation of the finished art assignments, the students who's adopted such enthusiastic approach to new art assignment or learning new artistic skills, excelled in the learning part of a new artistic skill, and completed their art assignment accordingly. Moreover, the students who adopted the fixed mindset and they approached the art assignment with the fixed mindset mentality always were eager to give themselves the chance to start the art assignment. However, after my extensive observation of the students who adopted the fixed mindset, I was able to find out that they still can start the art assignment but weren't able to keep up with the deadlines and never completed their assignments too. The third part is the literatures and resources. Throughout the lectures and the resources, I was able to connect with the core essence of the mindsets concept. Some of the resources introduced the essence of the mindsets concept throughout the introduction of more coherent and simplified definitions and concepts that related to the growth and fixed mindset. Other resources introduce certain controversies regarding the mindset and whether it can be measured or not. Also, some resources introduce the concept of flow and its positive impact on students' academic progress. Other resources included many examples and data about how much the flow state could produce such an invaluable resources that might help students to implement growth mindset, learning goals in art classrooms, which led uh, to the acceleration results on other academic areas such as in math and English. The usage of resources and literatures impacted my approach to my project. Also, the annotated bibliography played an important role in finding the right path um, where I can start my observations and to be able to find such important conclusions throughout my research for an answer of my project's main question. The analyses. Fourth graders survey results clearly illustrate that the majority of students are not sure whether they can change their intelligence or not. This could be due to the age of this group of students, which is between 9 and 10 years old. What struck me the most is that throughout this group of students, there isn't any students who truly believe in increasing their level of intelligence by learning and challenges. This is a true indication that I, as an art teacher, still have so much work to do with my fourth grade students so I can elevate their level of perceptions and increase their understanding of the true meaning of the growth mindset. Also, this survey's result has a glimpse of hope that we are walking on the right path with students to bring them to clear understanding of the importance of the growth mindset and its positive effectiveness academically and beyond that too. This feeling of hope came from the amount of students who scored between 25 and 32 points, which is an indication that they weren't sure whether they can change their intelligence or not. This is an indication that most of students care about their performance and learning progress. They don't really want to have to work too hard for it. Also, the fifth graders' survey results concluded that the majorities of students weren't sure whether they can change their intelligence. The majorities were looking after improving their performance and learning abilities. However, most of students didn't really want to have to work too hard for it. I think the positive aspect, and I could see it. I think it's a positive aspect, and I can see it clearly. I can see clearly that it was this group of students had an increased numbers of students who believed that their intelligence was something that they would increase. Also, Also, they cared about learning and they were willing to work hard and did well in school. These students adopted the growth mindset goals, which included the importance to learn than to perform well. The results of the fifth graders surveys survey was close to the results of the fourth graders, except the fifth graders were leaning toward believing that their intelligence is something that can increase. They cared about learning and they were willing to work hard. They wanted to do well and they thought that it was more important to learn than to always perform well. The implication from the fifth graders survey provided that there are possibilities to increase students' mindset learning goals, which will generate more growth mindset as a result of their learning path choice. I realized that many students reside inside the overall mindset score of 25 to 32. In it, the majorities weren't sure whether they could change their intelligence. Also, the majority of students cared about their performance academically and learning abilities, but they won't work too hard for it. The analysis of students' reactions added such an important foundation to my project design. I was able to observe each student's reactions either from their comments whenever I start the introduction of new assignments or by fully observing their facial reactions and body language to be able to differentiate between who's adopted the fixed mindset and who was eager to work hard and learn a new skill or artistic technique. The other part of this observation was the students' artworks. I realized that most students with a growth mindset learning goals were able to stay on track during the class time with their assignments and they participated actively during class. Also, this type of students were looking to increase their learning abilities rather than just focusing only on to perform well. The most important realization came from the students with fixed mindset, where I realized that no matter how they would underestimate their learning ability, they still manage to start a new art assignment and they don't have the motivation to finish their assignment. In this part, I will include my analysis of the literatures and resources from one example, which is the flow concept. So, the other resource which introduced the famous flow concept. Throughout this literature, I was able to cultivate another foundation and added it to my research's body. Throughout this specific text, I was able to connect with my inquiry project in many points. First, flow involves performance goals where participants connected with their level of performance, which is the main component of the growth mindset concept. Also, participants were aware of their learning goals before they start their artistic activity, which leads to the development of their awareness and how much important to work on their assignment project in order to reach out to their goals. Second, this resource presented the importance of intrinsic motivation, especially with an art classroom, and how much important for the art teacher to illustrate the assignment's learning goals and how and what type of skills students would be able to gain. This step would help students to build a strong motivation and desire to create goals, also to complete the artistic task on hand. Discussion, implications, and next steps. This project This project shaped a whole new vision to me. It's about a concept that I was gravitated toward for so many years. Throughout the literature's searching phase, I found many resources that served me well and other that didn't. I didn't have the chance to understand exactly how much important this concept meant to me as an art teacher until I started to dive deeper into the realm of every single aspect of this particular concept. This helped me to form as many types of connections as I can between them and the concept of the mindset. Now I understand the mindset's core concept, which helped me to improve my art teaching skills. Also, this project impacted how I see the world around me, especially inside of my classroom environment where I spent the majority of my time. Also, the core essence of this project including the annotated bibliography part, along with my classroom observations activities, had changed how I would perceive myself and my inner thoughts too, and to be more mindfully aware of my own reactions toward certain tasks, such certain tasks, as well as toward others around me too. This project's researching and literature's parts allowed me to expand my level of awareness, where I was able to replace some of my old pedagogy with new ones. These new pedagogies are free from certain harmful fixed mindset ideas that I used to hold on for many years. Also, there are many positive impacts on my work skills and practices, as well as on my perceptions of the classroom environment too. Some of these positive impacts includes the way that I perceive my students' mindsets. Paying a close attention to their reactions and observe it closely is one of many important key concepts that this project had taught me throughout its rigorous steps, which includes the researching part in class observation and the survey section of it too. Practicing the fundamentals of this project, such as the survey part, students' observations, and the literature part, is strengthening my teaching's abilities inside of my classroom because it provided the tools to understand students' mindsets. This project core theme gave me the opportunity to learn more about the basics that may help me to conduct certain measures inside of my classroom to aid students changing their fixed mindset as well as improving their academics too as a result of it. My next step after completing my Ed 599 inquiring project is to create as many steps in my art classroom so I can implement my learnings and findings of this wonderful project. First, I will make the survey part of my curriculum design. This step will provide an important step to me as an art teacher to aid students with fixed mindsets of and low academic achievement to understand the importance of growth mindset learning goals. And as a result of this specific type of understanding, students will be able to cultivate the growth mindsets principles during their classroom practices, creating a scaffolding technique. Also, creating a scaffolding technique to help students who's adapting the fixed mindset so they can achieve more progress in their assignments completion part. As a result, they will be able to develop the state of flow, which will dramatically impact other areas of their academics too. After completing my Ed 599 inquiry project, they will be more research process to uncover more about the mindset concept. There is now a sense of organizations, especially when it comes to searching aspect of my topics. Also, I'm learning how much important to create a research plan and cultivate steady flow of steps so I can execute this plan mindfully with focus. Another important element is to use every source of information as much as possible and try to avoid the duplicates ones which may somehow be the source of distraction to me as a researcher. Also, I learned how to be careful, especially when it comes to the the part where I have to choose the source and whether it's related to my main concept and inquiry question or not. Last but not least, creating an inclusion environment inside of my art classroom where all modes of thinking are acceptable, including the growth as well as the fixed mindset. This inclusion aspect of my classroom environment will work on such a well developed system that is based on clarity and understanding of the mindset concept. This is my bibliography part. Thank you so much for listening.